ReadNext is an NPM library which makes it easy to generate automatic content recommendations for your Node.js and React applications. In this video, I'm going to show how I added it to my React Server Components examples app, which is a Next.js application that shows how to use React Server Components. And I want to show some related examples at the bottom of each page. As this project uses MDX and front matter, the objective here is that I get some related content based on the slug of the example that gets generated for me by ReadNext without me having to go and figure this out myself. There are a couple dozen examples in this repository, and each time I add a new one, the most related examples could change, so I want to do this automatically. So now that I've installed the ReadNext library, first of all I'm going to import it and set up a summarization prompt. And this helps ReadNext understand what kind of content you have, because under the covers it's going to use that summarization prompt to generate a summary of your content, which it will then perform a similarity vector search on in order to generate the nearest related content in your corpus. So you can see here that I simply set up the ReadNext instance, I prepare my content, index the whole thing on line 34, and then for each example that I have, I ask ReadNext to suggest the top 5 most related examples to it. So now when I run this, it's going to go through each of my examples. Notice that I haven't run this before, therefore there is no cached summary of the example. And it's going to go ahead and perform the summarization process for each one of those. And at the end, what it's going to do is update my front matter on line 42 and inject my 5 related examples. And that's really it. At this point, all I have to do is to insert these examples into the UI. So I'm going to do that using a JSX component that I created earlier. It's pretty straightforward. It takes a single related example and expects to be given an array of some examples. And then the only other thing I had to do in this particular project was add the array of related IDs of these examples into my type. And then in the layout, which actually renders the particular example, all I'm going to do is add a little bit of code to go and grab the top 3 in this case. 5 was too many in the UI. And then use my new JSX component to render those. Clean up the imports. And by the time I switch back to the browser, because I'm using Next.js, it's already updated and it's already showing me my UI. So now I have the 3 top most related examples for every single example in my system. And I didn't really have to do very much to do this. Now, if the content changes, ReadNext will pick up on this and it will look at its cache next time you run this script. It will recognize that most of the stuff hasn't changed, but for the one that did, it's going to go ahead and regenerate the summarization for that because perhaps it's now become more relevant to other examples. And so by the time this finishes, you'll potentially have some new examples.